And a hearty welcome to one and all. This is episode 196 of the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for spending some of your late Sunday afternoon of Memorial Day weekend with me here in New York. If you check out this episode on the YouTube channel, enjoy it. Haven't done so already, please click like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on those notifications. Or if you catch this episode on the audio platforms such as Spotify or iTunes, same general rule applies. Click like, subscribe, share, and turn on those notifications. So today I'm going to do the episode that I would have done yesterday, were it not for the fact that about 3 days ago, I started to show symptoms of developing laryngitis. And I couldn't record yesterday's episode because I couldn't talk, for those keeping score at home. My voice is about 70 to 80% back. But I'll tell you, I haven't been sick since about April of 2019. I was due for something to go wrong health-wise. And I'd been feeling terrific. And then all of a sudden, it started a little bit of a cough and a weird feeling in the throat. And then it felt like my throat was coated somehow. And then the next thing you know, couldn't make myself understood. Now, some people would say that's a good thing. I hope the guy's voice never comes back. But I am grateful that it was not worse than it was. And I almost sound like my normal self. But I figured the episode I was going to do yesterday, it's not specific to that day, because this is a historical event which continues to be debated to this day. And so 59 years ago yesterday, May 25, 1965, is the sports world's version of the Zapruder film, of a controversial event that has had wide ranges of opinions as to what actually happened and why since it happened. It happened about a year and a half after the Kennedy assassination, which obviously, from a global perspective, is way more consequential when you're talking literal life and death, as opposed to arguing anything related to sports, where yes, there are serious people maybe involved, and there could have been mayhem and bloodshed involved, but nobody died from that fight, during that fight. Nobody got shot during that fight. There were no snipers. Well, that was one of the things. There was talk that maybe there were going to be snipers there in the building, but we'll get to that. But on May 25th, 1965, the undisputed world heavyweight boxing champion, Muhammad Ali, had a rematch with the man he took the title from a year earlier, Sonny Liston. And Sonny Liston, for those of you who don't know, would be kind of like the Mike Tyson of his day, only, believe it or not, scarier and more dangerous. Because Liston was owned by the mob, and Liston was a guy who, as a kid, showed the kind of antisocial behavior that Tyson later exhibited. But Liston was an ex-convict, like an ex-convict, not somebody who got into legal trouble later on, as Tyson did. Now, we can argue the semantics of who was worse or whatever, but Mike Tyson himself, and I know he's different now, but Tyson has always maintained, Liston made me look like a Boy Scout. The implication being that Tyson, to some extent, was playing a character. Not that he wasn't the baddest man on the planet or a tough son of a gun and a hell of a fighter. But what he was suggesting is that Liston was a different breed. That Liston and him, they had certain similarities. The intimidation, yes. But Liston was more of a genuine badass and more of a real tough guy than Mike considered himself to be. And that's neither here nor there. But the idea is, this was the Tyson of his day. Everyone was afraid of him. And Sonny was just kicking the shit out of everybody. And he took the world heavyweight title from Floyd Patterson, who was kind of an undersized heavyweight. So something that you see in the 50s and 60s, and to a lesser extent in the 70s, there were a lot of undersized heavyweight champions and undersized top contenders who would probably be dominant at light heavy and cruiser today, but they fought heavyweight. Floyd Patterson at light heavyweight would have been an all-timer for sure. As a heavyweight, he was a great fighter, but there were certain people he could not beat. And if you rerun the Matrix a million times, I don't know that he beats Muhammad Ali once. Maybe he beats him on a disqualification or if Ali breaks his leg moving around. But Floyd didn't hit hard enough to rattle Ali. And that was it. He couldn't outbox him. Floyd was fast. Ali was faster. In the case of Sonny Liston, Floyd hit hard, but somebody as big and tough as Sonny, he could have stood there all day. I don't think he could have taken him off his feet. 2 times, Sonny Liston fought Floyd Patterson. 2 times, he stopped him in the first round. That was the Sonny Liston that young, at the time, Cassius Clay, 22-year-old Cassius Clay, fought in February of '64 for the world heavyweight title. That's the guy that every ringside observer, with very few exceptions, said, the kid's going to get killed. He's funny. We like him. He's going to get the shit kicked out of him. This is going to be brutal. Well, that's not what happened. He took the title in what was a pretty easy fight, except for the fact that he was blind in the 5th round. That was the one round that Liston won. Probably should have been able to do more than what he did. He barely won the round because he was throwing and he was hitting air. But in the interim, between the shocking victory by the champ, by the challenger to take the championship, Cassius Clay changed his name to Muhammad Ali, became a very polarizing figure, a lightning rod on every side of the aisle. He was somebody that people talked about in the decades long before there was anything like social media. A lot of people on talk shows of the day arguing point counterpoint. He's allowed to express his beliefs. No, he's not. Not if he goes with these people. Same kind of conversations you get today. By the time he fought Liston, as dumb as this sounds, he hadn't made any title defenses. He had to give up the WBA portion of the world heavyweight title. Not because of what was about to happen in a couple of years with the Vietnam War. The WBA didn't like the fact that he was now a Muslim, had changed his name. So they made up some bullshit reasoning that he couldn't give Liston a return match. Now, I may not be up on exactly what the mechanics of the boxing world were like in the 60s, but my understanding is that whether there is a contractually mandated rematch clause, giving a former champion, and especially somebody with the cred of a Sonny Liston, you go Google right now, 10 greatest heavyweights who ever lived. Sonny Liston's on that list, and most experts would rank him above Mike Tyson, historically. You give the champion a return fight. I don't think it was in the contract, but he gave him a return fight. The WBA took the young champion's title, and they had this kind of weird tournament, which they ended up doing later in the 70s for a different reason related to Ali. But Ernie Terrell ended up getting the belt, and then he and Ali eventually fought. But on May 25th, 1965, the champ and former champ met, and there were a lot of rumors that the fight was fixed. And boxing has always had levels of corruption. We see it now where there are people fighting about the judging, and this is bullshit, and how is it that last 2 weeks ago, Tyson Fury and Usyk, how is that a split decision? This is disgusting. The sport is corrupt. There's nothing new here. 60 years ago, the sport was corrupt, but it was really corrupt. Like the mob was involved. Now you might just have special payoffs. I remember 25 years ago, Lennox Lewis versus Evander Holyfield, the first fight. Lennox Lewis's best round in that fight, there was a judge that scored it for Holyfield. That didn't seem as if it was on the level to me watching it live with a big group of people. We all said the same thing. How is that a draw? It wasn't that great of a fight, but come on, Lennox won the fight. Evander didn't look that great. But anyway, there was talk that Liston was going to throw the fight, or that a member of the mob was going to take a shot at Ali, or some combination of corruption. Nobody knew exactly what was going to happen, but the buzz was something weird will go down. Nobody knew what it was, because at the time, the Muslim movement was very powerful. Elijah Muhammad was very powerful. Elijah Muhammad's son Herbert was one of Ali's advisors, and Malcolm X. I don't think that he and Ali had fallen apart yet. I think that they were still close, pretty sure that they were still on good terms. The idea is people were picking sides. Nobody knew what was going to happen, but there was a sense that there could be a war outside of the fighters and that there could be shit going on that didn't specifically relate to the fighters going out there and competing and trying to win. But The arena in Lewiston, Maine was not even filled because people had been led to believe this fight is bullshit. And there were actually a good number of people that thought the first fight was fixed. That a lot of them said, I think Liston lost on purpose. It didn't look like the same Sonny that had smoked Eddie Macon and had beaten Zora Foley and Cleveland Williams and had trashed and torched the great Floyd Patterson twice. So there was just a lot of, we don't trust this at all going on. Sound familiar? Sound familiar? They're not getting my money for another Mayweather fight. Whatever it is, just change the names. So the young champion heard the rumors of a fix. He heard the vague threats and ideas that maybe somebody on Sonny's side will take a shot at you during the fight. Just keep your eyes open. Hey, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm fighting a 220-pound all-time great who could still hit like hell. I'm supposed to look to see if someone's going to shoot me at ringside? What are you fucking stupid? He didn't say that, but give me a break. He's got to focus on his opponent, not whether there's snipers positioned at ringside. He went ahead with the fight, and there wasn't very much coming out of Liston's camp. And in the fight itself, young Ali pounced on Sonny from the opening bell, and he looked even more physically impressive and imposing than he had looked in the first fight. In the first fight, I think he was listed at 212. I think that was a little generous. I don't think that he was 212. He looks significantly bigger, musculature-wise. And, he still had the fitness and the cardio, with the abs and all of that. So Ali was not a guy, and neither was Liston for that matter. He wasn't a guy who ever had a bodybuilder look to him, as some other fighters like a Kenny Norton from the 70s, hell, even George Foreman, and Evander Holyfield much later. But Ali was a very big guy. He was far from the light heavyweight he had been in the Olympics, winning the Olympics at 178. Hell, Golden Gloves. He won Golden Gloves in the 170s. I think he weighed 172 when he was 17, and he beat a 217-pound guy because there was no one left for him to fight. He just kicked the shit out of the guy. Sometimes the skill level, the gulf is so wide that the little guy can take a guy who outweighs him by 40 or 50 pounds. But the Ali of this fight looks, to my eyes, significantly bigger than Cassius Clay, that he had been a year prior, the kid that took the title from Sonny. And he wasn't in there to screw around. Pounced on Liston at the opening bell. And Sonny looked like he was there to compete. He was throwing punches, but even at that point in his career, young Ali had a reputation as somebody who fought backing up and fought with his hands down. It's just a matter of time before somebody catches him. The one time he got caught was by Henry Cooper. Luckily, when Cooper almost knocked him out of the ring in their 1963 fight, it was the end of the round, and when he jumped up, Cooper didn't even have the opportunity to try to finish the fight. But the idea was that he just fights backing up. Well, in this fight, he's not fighting backing up for the first 90 seconds. He is walking Liston down. He comes out in that fight, maybe because the fix was supposed to be the third round, but he comes out there aggressive and like, fuck this guy. I'm going to see if I can take the son of a bitch out early. I don't give a shit. Because in the pre-fight, there was a lot of clowning, and Ali was goofing around. He's fucking around at the weigh-in, playing around with Sonny's weight. They had a few laughs. But he went out there, maybe because of the rumors he heard. If somebody's planning on shooting me in the third round, I better get out of there early. Whatever the thought process was, he comes out there in the first round, and he is walking Liston down. He is walking him down. And Liston was similar to the first fight. He really couldn't do anything. He couldn't lay a glove on him. You could maybe hit him in the side a little bit, but that really never did anything. As people would later find out, you could hit Ali in the sweet spot, which most guys have to take a knee, and he just told you suck, you can't punch. So about 90 seconds into the round, the champ moving, advancing, Liston swinging it open air, and the champ, as he's attacking, backs up near the ropes, and Liston moves forward, almost lurches forward, and the champ throws this strange corkscrew, almost, it looks like a chop, like a martial arts strike. And he lands this kind of martial arts strike. He hits Liston on the point of the chin with this sort of chopping motion. And Sonny goes down like he's been shot. And that's because you can see it in slow motion. It is boxing's and sports' Zapruder film. I'm not exaggerating. It has been described as that. I didn't come up with this. You see a punch land, you see Sonny drop. What people have been debating is a guy as big and tough as Sonny, who took hellacious shots, and George Foreman later years used him as a training partner. And George said, I would hit Sonny, I would square him up, and he would laugh at me. Was that a consequential enough punch? Even from the surprise, because Sonny wasn't expecting to get hit. You do see the head move around. You do see the spin. But was it enough to do what happened to Sonny? Sonny went down like he'd been shot, and he was on the ground 15 plus seconds later. Now, Ali said a whole lot of stuff after the fight and in later years, because he was often asked about it, and sometimes it was a source of embarrassment, because there are a significant percentage of people who to this day will say that fight was fixed. Sonny was told, go down the first time you get hit, and that's that. But in the moment, that famous picture of Ali, we've all seen it. Hell, former President Barack Obama had it over his desk in his office, I think before he moved into the White House. I don't know if he had it he may have had it in the White House, but not the Oval Office. But that famous picture, he's young, his face is contorted like he's screaming at his opponent. He's got his arm crossed. It's a pretty impressive looking guy. People always, if you look at it quickly, you think that he's taunting his opponent or trash talking or doing something like that. But in the moment, the young champion did not think he hit Sonny hard enough for Sonny to go down. Clearly, that was an instinctive reaction. There's no way that Ali was acting and pretending. No chance. There's a chance that Sonny was, but that reaction, the way that he was stomping around the ring, he could have gotten disqualified. You can't do what he did. If that happened now exactly the same way, I think he probably gets disqualified, even as his opponent is rolling around the ring. The problem is, in the moment, they made a mistake and they had Jersey Joe Walcott, who was a tremendous heavyweight champion, another kind of undersized heavyweight, but a great fighter, one of the all-timers. There are people that would have Walcott in their top 10 greatest fighters of all time. That's how good he was. Man, he was shifty. The way that he could counter and move back and forth. Tyson Fury at his best and Michael Moore are two guys that had that kind of shifty. Walcott had a canter that no one had ever seen before. The way he moved in the ring was just poetry. But Walcott was not really a ref, and he didn't know what to do. He didn't know what happened. When Liston went down and Ali is screaming at him, the people at ringside say that he yelled, "No one will believe this. No one will believe this. You're supposed to be big and bad." And he's waving at him, "Get up. Let's have an actual fight. Get up." So Walcott tries to pull Ali away, and Ali continues to taunt and scream at Liston. And Liston makes an attempt to get up after about 5 or 6 seconds, falls back down. And Ali is running around the ring, carrying on. The arena's in an uproar, and the sports writers, nobody knows what's happening. It's total chaos and pandemonium. So finally, Liston gets to his feet. And Joe Walcott never gave a count. And this is the other problem with, other than the obvious of what I just said and what the video itself shows. You can't have a knockout unless A, the referee counts to 10, or B, in the referee's discretion, the down fighter can't continue. We see it all the time where the ref simply waves a fight off when a fighter goes down because it looks like this fight's over. You can tell sometimes the way that a guy goes down that the fight is done. There's no reason to have a count. Well, neither of those things happened here. Joe Walcott was so stressed about getting Ali to stop running around the ring, stop fucking around, he never began a count. Nothing, like not even a count of 5, 0. The count was 0. So when Liston finally got to his feet, and Walcott wipes his gloves as you're supposed to do, and he sends the fighters together, Well, Ali starts giving him the business. And this seems to be what Ali wanted. Because if he simply wanted the fight to be over, well, he wouldn't have carried on around the ring the way that he did. He wanted the fight to continue because in his mind, in that moment, this is bullshit. Come on, Sonny, let's have a real fight here. So Walcott brings the fighters together. Ali starts throwing punches. It looks like he's going to knock Liston down again when the publisher of Ring Magazine, Nat Fleischer, the most respected man in the sport of boxing for decades, Nat Fleischer stood up with his hands upraised like this and shouted, "Joe, the fight's over. The fight's over." Meaning, this can't continue. Sonny was on the ground for about 20 seconds. What the fuck, man? So Jersey Joe, even though the fighters are trading shots and Ali's getting the better of it, but Liston is not going down yet, Walcott walks over, separates the fighters, and declares Ali the winner by KO in round 1. And 59 years later, people are still trying to figure out what the fuck happened in that fight. Because nobody ever came forward with conclusive proof that Liston was paid to throw the fight. And Liston himself never said he got paid to throw the fight, or at least he never went on record. I don't actually know what he said. Angelo Dundee, Ali's trainer and kind of chief second point man, went to Liston's dressing room after the fight was over. And he said, for what it was worth, Sonny looked like a guy who had been KO'd. Even though my guy didn't hit him, it didn't look like he hit him very hard. We saw that he landed a punch. It didn't seem like a loaded punch. Well, it wasn't a loaded punch. But Dundee said Sonny did not look like a guy who had just thrown a fight. He looked like a guy who just lost a fight. He got beat up. He lost. So in Dundee's opinion, which was not an expert opinion, it was an expert opinion, but he could totally be wrong. Liston looked like a guy who had suffered a KO loss, not a guy who had thrown a fight. Nobody knows. Nobody will ever know with absolute certainty. Just as, the Zapruder film, without that, Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone, and there would have been no reason to question anything else. But because of the Zapruder film, but because of the angle of the shots, literally, from the various, or maybe one rifle, we don't know, but because of that, then you could start saying, I think there was a second gunman on the grassy knoll. I don't know that Oswald could have hit the senator from that angle. It's a little bit of a magic bullet theory, and then you go from there. If there had not been good quality close-up, because most people at the fight, and this is where you start throwing shit into the ring, nobody in the arena saw a punch. The sports writers were in an uproar because they didn't see it. Nobody saw it except probably a few people on one side. This side, where the fighters would have been here. Probably about 500 people in the arena probably could have seen that shot. But it was so quick. It was like this. And then suddenly Liston is on the ground. For 80 to 90%, if not more, of the people there, it looked like Liston simply dropped without being hit. So people were going crazy. To a much lesser extent, in the second fight, speaking of Mike Tyson, it's amazing. Tyson and Ali, their names are always linked, even though they were friends and they were too far apart in age to ever have been real rivals, obviously. Ali was long retired when Tyson made his debut. But in the second fight between Tyson and Holyfield, it's 1997. Even people in the nosebleeds, they're broadcasting the fight in front of them so you can see what's going on. In the middle of the second round, all of a sudden, Evander Holyfield starts jumping up and down. He's jumping up and down. Mills Lane is bewildered, as Jersey Joe Walcott was bewildered during this fight. He didn't see a punch. Sonny's on the ground, and the champion is carrying on like a lunatic, stomping around the ring, waving his arms and screaming, what the fuck is happening? 1997, was it July 29? Evander Holyfield is bouncing up and down. Mike Tyson's cursing. Mills Lane didn't see shit. He calls timeout, literally goes like this, like he's in football. Keeps Tyson to one side. The audience in that arena is going nuts. Nobody saw anything. There are people you can see on the video screaming, what the fuck is Holyfield doing? And that's when Ferdy Pacheco, Another one who worked with Ali, he was Ali's doctor, says he got bit on the ear. And that was some crazy shit. But we had every possible angle. There was no fix there. Tyson just got frustrated because the fight wasn't going well. And presumably he was mad because in the first fight, Evander leading with his head. We've been all over that. There's no real conspiracy in the second fight between Tyson and Holyfield. But the idea of everyone in the building being momentarily bewildered as to what's taking place. It's not that much different. Nobody saw a bite. You're sitting even in good seats. How could you possibly see it? Guys bring their heads close all the time. Nobody saw shit. Some people saw the next bite, but also because now they knew what was going on. When Evander jumped back in the next round, when the second bite took place, well, fight's over. So Sonny Liston continued on, and he took part in the kind of heavyweight round robin tournament in the late 60s after Ali, after the titles were formally stripped from him. It's kind of ironic. The WBA took his title for bullshit reasons, which were never really made clear, if you ask me. He shouldn't have given Liston a rematch. Fuck you. What are you talking about? But then he unified the belts again when he beat Ernie Terrell. All of the talk that we had with Usyk and Tyson Fury, the discussion of the lineal champion. You go back far enough in time, Muhammad Ali is a lineal champion. There are not innumerable, countless heavyweight champions. This belt has a specific lineage. And so he was a lineal champion. They stole one belt, then he unified it, and then he lost all the belts because of what happened, the scenario with Vietnam. So Sonny Liston took part in a tournament with the top heavyweights after Joe Frazier and Jimmy Ellis ended up being the guys. But Ellis technically was the champion for a time, and then Frazier beat him. But Liston was in that tournament with other great fighters from the era like Thad Spencer and Leotis Martin. And it was actually Leotis Martin who stopped Sonny in a very competitive and exciting fight. But Sonny could still fight. He wasn't what he had been, and Sonny was probably a lot older than what they thought. They thought he was either 30, but he could have been as old as like 40 by the time of the second fight. The only thing that people knew for sure with Sonny Liston, he's from Pine Bluffs, Arkansas. That's it. Everything else, because they're depending on which birth certificate you used, it was at least a 6 or maybe even an 8-year difference in how old he actually was at various points. Sonny Liston allegedly died of a drug overdose. I want to say it was 1970. And he also fought Chuck Wepner, the Bayonne bleeder. He beat him. He stopped him on cuts, not surprising. That's the guy who was the inspiration for the Rocky series when he fought Muhammad Ali in his second go-round at champion in 75 and nearly went the distance with Ali, who was pretty far past his prime, but he was still pretty damn good at age 33. But Sonny died, and that's a mystery that's never been solved. There are people that think he simply accidentally overdosed on heroin, but then there were those who said Sonny never took heroin. Sonny didn't use drugs. They think the mob rubbed him out, but why? Nobody knows. So Sonny Liston, and they tried to make a big budget movie with Ving Rhames in the 90s, but it never happened. It's interesting casting. But nobody knows how, for real, how Sonny Liston died. Did he commit suicide? Was it an accidental overdose? Was he drugged? Was he murdered? Nobody knows. And nobody knows for 100% certain what happened in the ring in Lewiston, Maine, when Ali fought Liston in a rematch, and the fight ended at 1 minute and 42 seconds of the first round. To this day, a mystery that can't ever really be solved, because if there was chicanery, most of the people involved, nobody ever came forward, and most of them are gone, in many cases long gone. We'll never really know, but it makes for a great story, and all of the footage that I talked about in this episode is readily available to you on YouTube. And the innumerable quotes of Ali at various points where he seems to say, no, I caught him square with the anchor punch, and other times, yeah, I think Sonny just didn't want to fight that night, or I think the mob paid him and told him go down early. Nobody will ever know for 100% certain. 59 years ago, May 25th, 1965. What will forever be known as the Phantom Punch. Muhammad Ali versus Sonny Liston, the rematch. This has been episode 196 of the Confessions of a Not So Dangerous Mind podcast. I'd like to thank you all for spending some of your Sunday of Memorial Day weekend with me here in New York. If you caught this episode on the YouTube channel, haven't done so already, please click like, subscribe, comment, share, turn on those notifications. Or if you catch this episode on the audio platforms such as Spotify or iTunes, same general rule applies. Click like, subscribe, share, and turn on those notifications. I'll be back with episode 197 real soon.